All right, and we're back. This is episode 176 of the Taproom Podcast, and I'm your host, Mike. Ooh, it's Sunday morning. It's Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. This was a really fun episode, and I was just, geeking out with Jeff, and obviously the guest is Jeff Alworth. He's the author of the Beer Bible, and if you guys haven't read that, I think you need to, and I'm sure there might be an audiobook format of it. I'm not sure, but the book's amazing, and Jeff was so nice, and it was great. Just being able to sit down and talk with him, and geek out about the book, about the Beer Bible, and I feel like we probably could have had a 2-hour conversation, but we kept it right around an hour, and I'm just grateful, man. Jeff didn't have to say yes to me. And, I reached out and, then I heard back and, we made it all happen. I had to cancel one of the days because I forgot I had dinner plans with my dad, but he was so cool about it. And we made it happen and it was a blast. And again, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you, man. And again, if you haven't read the book, why not? Pick it up, dude. It's so good. And there's the original version, then he did the updated version. I think it was in 2021. That's the one that I have. So I would urge you to pick it up and give it a shot because honestly, I'm going to use the clip where we talked about what the book meant to me for the story and then also for the post as well, because it was he got to go to all these different places and drink all these different beers and learn about the culture and the community and all of that. And it just, when I think about what craft beer is and what it means to me, that's exactly what it is. So yeah, again, if you have some free time, pick yourself up a copy and give it a whirl. It's so good. All right. So before we jump into the episode, what do we got this week? Again, today's Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to my dad, to my stepdad, and, to all the dads out there, to my uncles. And yeah, but I hope everybody has a good day. I'm going to take my pops out to breakfast. That's our tradition. It's a tradish. Trish the dish. If anybody knows that reference, let me know. Send me a DM and let me know. All right. Let's see. So yeah, we have Father's Day today. The World Cup's going on. Team USA's, I guess, qualified, or so is Team Mexico. It's going to be good. I'm excited. And somebody was telling me that there's a chance that England and the U.S. could play on the 4th of July. I guess things have to play out the right way. But if they did, they would play each other. And it'd be obviously the 250th birthday of America. So I just thought that was pretty wild. Yeah, can I show them how we're back-to-back World War champs? Just kidding. I just thought that'd be fun. I was like, man, that's pretty wild. But yeah, so World Cup's going on. Good stuff there. The Knicks won. I don't know if I talked about that last week. The Knicks won, the Hurricanes won, so we're just down to baseball right now. So baseball's taking center stage. But it is June 21st, and we're literally about 5-6 weeks away from preseason football. We're getting there, baby. Twinkle, twinkle. It's almost that time of year. Shout out to Art, LA_BrewLife. We all know our favorite time of year is college football season. So it's getting there. It is getting there. I'm excited. Not just for a particular team, and I love USC, but I just love college football, and it's just so fun watching it. So yeah, I'm excited. All right, what else we got before we jump into the episode? I can talk about next week's stuff on the outro. Let's see, next Saturday, I'm recording at Beechwood. I didn't want to say it yet, but it's happening. I'm recording with King Germs himself at Beechwood. I'm excited. Or maybe did I mention that last week? I don't remember. The brain's starting to go. Almost, I'm about, how many months away? 8 months away from the big 4-0. So the brain gets a little foggy, especially in the mornings. But yeah, recording at Beechwood, and then also going to go record with Tappy Artillery when I'm up there for the 4th of July, and working on 1852 Brew Co. while I'm up there. And then I'll be in Georgia in 3 weeks. So looking to record with a couple breweries out in Roswell. I've heard they've had a great kind of craft beer community out there, so I'm excited to do that. Let's see, before last things, if you'd like to support the show, you can. All you'd have to do, and you don't have to spend any money doing it, you could just give a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify or whatever you're listening on. Oh, also shout out to Singapore. So, they continue. I don't know who's doing it out there, but I appreciate you, or all the people doing it out there, but it just continues. It's like they're right now outside of the United States, Singapore, Hong Kong, Belgium. I appreciate you guys, whoever, like you guys listening each week. And I'm always curious to meet, to interact with people, man. So send a message, say what's up. I always appreciate it. Yeah, so shout out there. But yeah, you can leave a review on there. Apple will let you actually write out a review if you wanted to. You just have to scroll all the way down. I know it's a pain in the ass. And then also, if you'd like, you can also support the show. If you wanted to buy a t-shirt, you can do that as well. It's taproompodcast.dashery.com. Again, that's taproompodcast.dashery.com. And then also, if you'd like to, if you've ever thought about supporting, what a read. And I don't even write these things down. But yeah, if you'd like to also support the show, you can go to podbean.com/taproompod, because if you've ever thought about starting your own show, and I did that ass backwards there. But if you've ever thought about starting your own podcast, and again, right now there's no time like the present, but also it's so easy now. Like you can literally buy lapel mics and go and record and do something with your buddies and throw it on the internet and just have fun with it. But only do it if you're seriously committed to it and you really want it. Because like I said, it's so easy. And you can get a month free from Podbean by going to podbean.com/taproompod. Again, that's podbean.com/taproompod. All right. So I hope you guys enjoy the interview with Jeff. I hope you guys, why am I doing the outro? Enjoy the interview with Jeff. Again, Jeff, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Cheers. All right, guys, we're back in the tap room, and I'm your host, Mike, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Jeff Alworth, the author of the Beer Bible. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good.
That's great. I'm glad to hear it. This means a lot to me, being able to come on. I'm super appreciative that you're taking the time to come talk to me. I always love to, I really want to nerd out about the book, but before we get into all that, I always love to hear about somebody's journey in craft beer first. So you think we could start there and how you got started?
Yeah, I'm an elder, and so my story goes back a ways. I started drinking beer in the 1980s. I turned 21 in 1989. I may or may not have been drinking beer before then.
Mm-hmm. I feel you.
I moved to Portland, Oregon, where I lived, to go to college, and we had a wonderful old regional domestic brewery here called Henry Weinhard's, which was located right in the middle of downtown. And so it scented the city with the smell of boiling wort. It was like a 1,000,000-barrel brewery. It was a big brewery.
Wow.
It was founded 150 years ago. And it was founded, it was one of the first things that happened. People moved to Portland a few years later. It was during the great period of German migration. So some Germans moved out here and they started brewing. And the city of Portland's had brewing ever since then. So when I got here, Henry's was a pretty big deal. They had released in the 70s a beer that was kind of an upscale version of domestic lager called Private Reserve. And then in the early 80s, actually the late 70s, the first craft brewery, Cartwright, opened here. And then in the mid 80s, we had other breweries. So when I got here, the brewing scene was already kind of hopping.
Okay.
And, I was a college student and I drank cheap beer for the most part. A nice treat was to get some Henry's. And then later in my college time, I started going to brew pubs and, became pretty fascinated with good beer. By the early 90s, the city was calling itself Beervana.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, we were really early on the whole beer thing. And I was just sort of swept away with that. Got into beer. I went to graduate school at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, where beer was actually also, craft beer was also going in Madison, but in Portland, we'd already discovered hops, and so we liked our beers hoppy.
Mhm.
It was more of the lager scene in Madison. So I started homebrewing there in
Okay.
in Madison. Like this is now we're talking about like 93, 94, something like that. I left Madison, came back to Portland, continued homebrewing and drinking beer. And, by that time things were really hopping here. And so that's how I got into beer.
I love it. And even going like, did you ever venture out to, like, Milwaukee or anything when you were in Madison?
I did. I didn't go to a brewery when I was there.
Okay.
So it was, Milwaukee still had Pabst at that time,
Mhm.
still had Miller. I mean, Miller still is there. I don't know where some of the other kind of famous breweries that, I don't know if Schlitz still had its brewery open or not, but
Yeah.
I didn't go to them then. I did actually go to I went to Milwaukee when we get later down the line
Yeah.
in the teens when the Beer Bible came out. I had a brewer a beer a book tour stop there,
Oh,
and
okay.
I got to see more of Milwaukee then.
Oh,
At that point, it
awesome.
was hopping. Madison was actually Capital Brewery in Madison was this cool brewery that was founded sometime in the early to mid '80s, and they made great lagers. Another brewery called Gray's, Sprecher in Milwaukee, and Lakefront in Milwaukee were around, and we drank their beers. But I did not visit those breweries.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just curious because I love Lakefront out there. Maybe that was one of the ones you went on the book tour with, but Lakefront was, and they have such a rich history, and I love that brewery. And but for a listener maybe that hasn't read your book, or that maybe you get out there and pick it up, what if you could describe to them what the book is before we jump into some of the questions I want to nerd out about?
Sure, it's a book that is designed to be a comprehensive reference guide to the world of beer. The idea came from the publisher Workman, who had published the Wine Bible, which was a really successful version of the same book for wine, and they wanted to expand that into beer. And so it took a long time to land that book deal, and it was really arduous to write it. But that was sort of our guiding light, was to write a book that would answer questions that anybody had about beer without getting, into the very, very deep technical weeds. So I really did try to make it as comprehensive as possible.
I love that. That's great. And like, obviously you like in the book, like you covered beer like all over the world, and like, but was there like a region or a style that maybe you expected to love, but maybe like didn't end up connecting with, or vice versa, either one, like that you just kind of up like just a region you fell in love with?
Yeah. I mean, I fell in love with like all the regions, and I wrote a second edition of the book, and I went to
Yeah.
even newer places, and it was always a real treat to see, where beer culture was happening. But I will I will say that uh, the one misalignment I had was I was a little bit scared of Germany.
Hmm.
I didn't know what German beer was going to be like. I didn't know what German beer culture was going to be like. I wrote the book in two chunks, and I turned in the first half, and then I turned in the second half in 2 years. And the first, just I don't know why, but the first half I went to the Allied countries where they make ale. So I went to France,
Yeah.
Belgium, Britain,
Mhm.
and there was a lot. And when I went to those places, there was kind of an acknowledgement of World War II. I mean, it's still present,
Yeah, of course.
even in the 20 teens, that was still the case. And so I was a little wigged out by going to Germany and going to the Axis country. And I didn't understand lager culture as well as I understood ale culture. So I was a little bit intimidated. And in order to prepare, I went to a friend's house here in town, Alan Taylor, who owns the Zweigel House Brewing. Actually hadn't opened it yet, but he was a brewer in town, and I knew he had studied brewing in Germany, and I wanted him to walk me through what I should expect and kind of get me up to speed. And so he took an afternoon one day and kind of got me prepped. And then I went to Germany and I fell in love with it. And I now am in my writing, I think, more associated with lager beer than I am with ale.
Hmm.
Kind of funny going back to that story of how I was in lager country in Wisconsin, and I wanted to,
Yeah.
make IPAs. So that was kind of a really big shift. I spent a fair amount of time in Franconia and Bavaria, and it was awesome.
Oh yeah, that sounds like such. Just made like an amazing trip and or just an amazing experience. I feel like, and then like yeah, because I would understand. Like I would be intimidated too going over there, and at least initially back then, like even though it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but still, like I feel like it would be.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I mean, I was researching that book and doing this travel, coming on 15 years ago now. So
Yeah.
we knew in the United States we knew less about European traditions and beer styles than we know today. And in fact, on that same trip, I was kind of doing lager country, and so I went to the Czech Republic after that. And I think in the book, you have more detailed information about the Czech brewing tradition and the Czech styles in the Beer Bible than anything published in English to that point, and I was really proud of that.
That's
That was
awesome.
that was kind of a challenging piece to put together and find people who would guide me through the Czech world and
Mhm.
and so I could learn about it. Now we everybody knows about Czech beer, and I think we've probably all forgotten that at one time we didn't know that there was Czech dark lager, and we didn't know that there was,
Mhm.
Czech amber lager. We just knew that there was Pilsner, and that's all that we knew. And it was fun to write about a tradition that was much bigger than that.
I love that, and even like for something like an ESB, right? I feel like, I mean, at least a lot of my friends, like, and even breweries out here can't, they don't put it, or if they do put an ESB on the menu, they don't call it an ESB, right? They have to call it something else because, the average consumer, they see bitter and they assume it's going to be bitter, and it's not. It's like the furthest thing from it,
Right.
right? So is there like, I mean, outside of maybe that one, is there a style that you feel like us as a culture that maybe should, give it a whirl or like at least try?
I mean, Belgian beer has vanished in America, and that's kind
Yeah,
of the
that's true.
greatest
Yeah.
the greatest shame for me. At the time when I was writing the Beer Bible, the first version, Belgian beer was pretty popular in the craft beer circles here in the United States. It was the period of time when West Vleteren was the number one ranked brewery on. This was before Untapped. It was the number one ranked brewery
Mhm.
on Beer Advocate and Rate Beer. People were really crazy for Belgian beer. And so it felt a little when I went and I went to all the great Belgian breweries, not all of them, but I went to many of the most famous great Belgian breweries. And I felt very fortunate to get to hang out with the brewmasters there and learn their trade. And at the time, it felt very special and like this was giving me some insight into a thing that Americans were really interested in. And, and,
Mhm.
I felt like I had the inside track, and I still do, but nobody cares about that tradition anymore. And that's a little sad to me.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, I will drink a Belgian occasionally. I just don't, I mean, they're not readily available all the time, but my stuff is, I love the West Coast. Like I love being danky too. Like you don't get the danky ones as much as often, but they're still so good.
We get a lot of dank here in Oregon.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I want to get out there so bad. I got to do that soon. But I want to ask you because I mean, like you got paid to write a book about beer and you got to go to all these different places. Like what was like, when did it kind of hit you? Like, man, I'm at all these different places and I'm getting paid to do this.
The first brewery.
Yeah.
It's the
There it
very
is.
first one. My friend Patrick Emerson, who I met in college, and we would later have a beer podcast together, which we retired. But his mother grew up in England, and he'd spent a fair amount of time in Britain, and so we decided to go together for that first leg. And actually, he was my driver, which was great because driving on the left hand side was challenging.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever, the wrong side of the road.
Yeah.
And so our first stop, we flew into London. The next day, we got up and we were all jet lagged. And our first stop was the Fuller's Brewery in London, which is
Mm.
a hundred and I don't know, it's a 19th century brewery that's on the side of a much older brewery. So it's called the Griffin Brewery. London or the
Mhm.
Fuller's has the brewery has its own name, which is kind of typical because a lot of times in Britain, the owner would change hands, but the brewery's name would still stay. So the brewery might have its own name, which was cool. And Fuller's does this weird kind of brewing system called Party Guile Brewing, which is an ancient system that we don't need to get into too much, but it's
Yeah.
basically obsolete. And they're the only really big brewery that still does it.
Wow.
And it was just remarkable John Keeling was the master brewer there, and he'd scooped up Derek Prentice, who was this brewer who had been at Young's, which is another brewery in London that had closed. And Derek Prentice had been brewing for 40 years as a master brewer in London.
Wow.
And so he was just floating, and so Fuller snapped him up. So these two guys who had been brewing since the 70s or 80s were, teaching us about about British beer. And it was just remarkable. We met them first in John's office, and then John had stuff to do. He's the head brewer, and in Britain, head brewer means director of brewery operations. It's the head honcho. It's the guy who wears a suit, not the guy who is out in the, actually in the brewery. So Derek led a tour with Patrick and I, and we were out there long enough that at some point John called him on the phone and said, "Where the hell are you guys? What are you doing?" He had to reel us back in. But then he took us down to they had their cellars underneath the brewery, and took us down to the cellars and started pulling out old Fuller's beers, old vintage ales and stuff.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's cask pulls there. And, we were there, I don't know, several hours learning about British beer and hanging out with these guys who had, approaching a century of collective wisdom. And that was, that's just the first stop. I could go on and on and on. I went to about 50 of these places in a number of different countries. And it was just a sublime experience. And I thought if you're a beer fan, what I just did would be a priceless experience for anyone to have just a single time. And then I got to do it over and over and over again. And it was, it was remarkable.
Oh, I bet. It's so like fascinating, especially because that was like, during like the boom too, when things were going, things are kind of like, even like you said, like going to Germany during that time and all that, like when the craft beer was just on the rise or continuing its rise at that time. So I can imagine how awesome that was.
Yeah. It's funny. In Britain at the time, British craft beer was also really hot. And it was funny because, British craft beer was American beer. They were basically just completely borrowing our model and making our beer, which was not that interesting to an American. I went to those breweries and they were all doing some stuff that was not American, which was cool. And that's the piece that interested me with those breweries. But then we would go to these old Victorian brew houses, which were, according to the sort of conceptual framework of beer in Britain at the time, these were not craft breweries. And that blew my mind. I'm like, there's nothing more crafty than this. Like, this is an old tower brewery where you're putting it into a cask, re-fermenting it in the cask and sending it off to a pub where they're going to handle this and let it ferment the cellar and pull it through a hand pull. Like, there is literally nothing in the world that is made with more handcrafting going on than
Definitely.
British, these old British breweries. So it was really weird because they were sort of out of fashion at the time, and people were, they're like, no, IPAs are awesome. I'm like, kidding me, man? Look at London Pride. This thing is tremendous.
Oh yeah. No, and even you mentioned Young's earlier, like or just a bit ago, I like when I was a kid, I remember drinking that, like thinking like, oh man, this is beer? Like I didn't really think about it. Like, because it was like the double chocolate stout, I think it was.
Yeah.
But as a 18-year-old, I'm drinking that and like Mississippi Mud and stuff like that. You don't really think about it being craft beer or craft, adjacent, whatever it was at the time. But
Right.
man, it was still like it changed your life without you knowing it, I feel like.
Yeah, it certainly changed mine.
Yeah, definitely. Before we continue on to talk about the book, I do have a segment called the 4-pack, so it's just 4 questions. The first question is, what's one beer that never leaves your fridge because you're always restocking it?
Yeah, so I'm a beer writer, and my beer or my fridge is stocked with whatever people.
That's true.
Me. I feel like, just to cheat a little bit, there's always a lager in there.
Okay.
And I feel like there used to always be an IPA in there, and now it's always a lager. So that's a shift in the way that I drink. In the winter, there's always some kind of dark ale, because I'm still a giant fan of porters and stouts, and not
so
like
good.
necessarily, super, fussy barrel aged stouts. I mean just regular kind of old school boars and stouts. I do like pastry stouts, but and those will find their way into my fridge too. But yeah, those I think you're always going to find in the summer you're going to find a lager, in the winter you're going to find a dark ale.
Okay. Love it. I feel the same way or a similar way like we usually with my beer fridge. So I got you. The second question is, if you weren't in beer, what would you be doing? Or maybe something you wanted to do as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think of myself as a writer more than a beer guy, and
Okay.
there was, there was some chance that I didn't write about beer and I wrote about something else, but I started writing an article for the Alt Weekly here in Portland, Oregon. It's called Willamette Week, and that just sort of led me into beer, which was a passion of mine, and I loved it. And it turns out that that's a really good subject to cover because it's almost an endless topic. So you can mine it endlessly as a topic.
Yeah.
But if I had drawn it up the way that I'd sort of dreamed about it as a younger person, I would have been a famous novelist.
Okay.
So that's what would have happened.
Now, what are some of your favorite books that you've well, I love to read as well. So I was just curious, what are some of your favorite books?
Yeah, when I was younger, I was really into the absurdists. So Samuel Beckett was a big favorite of mine. And I liked some of the plays that Ionesco and Albee and some of those guys. I was really into Camus, who I think is misunderstood. He was a big favorite of mine.
Okay.
And there's a guy called Roddy Doyle, who's an Irish writer who I really loved. And yeah, I could go on and on about.
Oh yeah, no worries. No, I'm always curious because Steinbeck is. My dad grew up in Salinas, so I always have a fondness for Steinbeck. But there's so many. I'm always looking for new books to read. One of my favorite ones that they converted into a movie was the Tender Bar. That was such a phenomenal read, and even after I read it, I listened to the audiobook after just because it was in his he actually did the audiobook. J.R. Moringer, and it was just books can change you, and I don't know, and it's a lost kind of I feel like nowadays no one wants to read anymore, and I just a lost art form. I feel like, but it's so good.
Yeah, no one wants to read anymore. We've really shifted as a society, and I think AI is really going to accelerate that. I'm a little bit anxious. I don't know that I'll ever write another book. I'm not sure that there is a market for nonfiction in the way that there was when I started my career, which is weird to me, but
yeah, same. Yeah, same for me too. But if you write another one, I'm going to pick it up. So I'm in. Well,
I may too, because it's my favorite thing. So
yeah, of course. And you got to do it because you love it. Right. Yeah. The next one, if you could collab with any, do a beer collab with any brewery and go out on a brew day, what brewery would you want to do that with? You have a plethora of them to choose from up in Oregon. So
yeah, I think what I would love to do is collaborate with a European brewery for a beer that would be distributed here. And so this is we're getting into fantasy realm because I'm not sure how that works. But there's a brewery in Vienna called the Schweckert Brewery. It's where Dreher first brewed the first Vienna lager. Okay. And they make Austrian Märzen in Austria, and it's this kind of weird beer that became their mass market lager. They call it Märzen. So it's a golden mass market lager, and it's really, really good.
Oh, wow.
And a bunch of breweries make it. I just mentioned Schweckert because I toured that brewery and know the brewer there. It's a really cool style, and I wish Americans knew about it. So I might partner with him and make a slightly more American version of it, not hugely. It's actually a varied style. So there's some that are a little bit maltier and a little hoppier, and that would probably be appropriate for the United States. It's a very golden beer. It's much deeper in color than American mass market lagers. So it's a really beautiful beer. So anyway, I would probably do that.
Okay. No, that sounds good to me. I would try it. It sounds, you don't see goldens, golden ales or anything like that, really. Even, I feel like a lot of times, even browns and stuff, you don't see it. I feel like you're seeing a little bit of it more now, at least out here in California, but not nearly as much as you would have seen, way back when. Last question, the 4-pack is what's a guilty pleasure you secretly love or not so secretly love?
Yeah. I'm going to go with one that's become kind of a running joke. Glitter beer.
Okay.
When glitter beer had its 5 minutes of fame,
Mm,
I went and talked to a couple of brewers and who were making it here in town, and I really fell in love with it. It's super cool. The way it
yeah.
transfixes you. You know, I may or may not have had adult mind-altering substances when I was younger, and there's
It
something about
happens.
the way it shimmers and glows in the glass
Yeah.
really, really blew my mind, and I loved it, and I wished it was not instantly and universally despised by everybody. I thought it was super cool.
Yeah, at least almost like a lava lamp, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There it is. I wanted to ask because I know you released the original book in 2015, and then obviously was it 2021 you did the second version, or you added on to it, right? Like, if you could do something now, I mean, it's been about 11 years now, right? If you could add something now to it, like, what do you think that chapter would be about, and what would the message be?
I mean, what's one interesting thing that happened was I wrote the first one, the first edition, and it came out in 2015, as you mentioned, which was like right when hazies were coming on.
Oh, yeah.
And the
Big time.
industry went through this tremendous change, but in the next few years. And almost immediately that book was out of date on that realm of, sort of the American beer scene. I did not the word hazy did not appear in that book, or hazy
Yeah.
IPA anyway. So I really needed to update it. That was one of the main reasons I did the second one, was because that's a chapter that people are always going to be interested in.
Yeah.
That pretty quickly, and it was really outdated almost immediately. So the interesting thing is that since 2021, beer has not shifted nearly as much. So
Yeah.
that's a fascinating kind of, just, as a person who's been around a long time, it's interesting to see how things go through periods of explosive change and then kind of periods of stasis. And we've really been in a period of stasis. So I don't know that there's a big need to update the standard stuff, but the one dimension of beer that has gotten no exploration is traditional styles. So we
Mhm.
know chicha is kind of one in the Americas that we know about, but most places on the planet that had some kind of cereal grain made a
Mhm.
beer. There's rich traditions all throughout Africa and Asia, and much older traditions in Europe, which Lars Marius Garshol has really documented, and when he's written about European farmhouse ales, especially in his home Scandinavia, I mean the Baltics, in Russia, places like that. He's captured that traditional brewing there, but most of the world's traditional beers have not really been documented
Mhm.
in a very comprehensive way. And if I had enough money and enough time, I would love to travel around the world and catalog those beers because they're really cool, and they're, you know,
Mhm.
ancient beers. So they're very cool.
I love that. I mean, yeah, there's so many places I wanna go, and honestly, every time I travel, I mean, a lot of times for work or for my actual job, I have to, I travel to different states for different things. But every time I go somewhere, it's always about where's the best local craft beer, and then maybe look for maybe one on the bigger scale, but then also look for all the brew pubs. I mean, I love the brew pubs more than anything, but it's cool to just kind of reflect on the culture, the craft beer culture of that city. Yeah,
Totally.
it's so awesome. And we talked about how the scene, like you said, the scene hasn't shifted as much since 2021, and I wholeheartedly agree. One thing I wanted to mention though is because of hop extracts, right? And all these new things, and I'm sure you see being a writer, I mean you see this stuff all the time. And I feel like there is a place for it because I don't want people to take this the wrong way. But it's do you feel like it takes away from the essence of what is craft beer a little bit with those things?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring this up.
Yeah.
I'm working on a piece for craft beer and brewing and looking at hop products, and
Okay.
the article is going to be on hazy IPAs and sort of where 10 years later, where are hazy IPAs? And I've spent a fair amount of time looking at these hot products and talking to brewers about how they use them,
Mhm.
and where do you draw the line? So nobody uses whole hops anymore. So
Yeah.
almost all of
It's all pellets, yeah.
all of the hops that go into beer for them, with rare exceptions, have been processed.
Mhm.
Even pelletizing them, mashing them into a pellet, is the first level of process. So where do you draw the line on what a hop product is? And
That's true, yeah.
it's interesting because many, many, many of the products that you can buy are just concentrated or extracted versions of the hop. Nothing is added, and usually the stuff that's taken away is the stuff that the beer does not need. It's the leaf matter, or in some cases you'll strip away something to, it's a bittering. You have a product that will bitter the beer. It's more focused on bittering it, or it's more focused on aromatic. So you may take some stuff, even more more stuff out, but it still starts out as hop. So is that
Mhm.
where are we? Where are
Yeah.
we on the that whole line of additive and
Mhm.
industrialization and all that stuff? There does come a point, I think, where you're adding thiolized products, GMO yeast that's thiolized, terpenes where you've extracted everything but the this one molecule that's a specific terpene. uh,
Mhm.
I do think at that point you're starting to get into fairly exotic stuff that is not identical to natural not the natural hop.
Yeah.
We're getting pretty far afield. My sense is that brewers rarely use most of that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, they've experimented with it, and some of it, like the thiolized yeast, had a moment, and it seems like it's sort of past. Terpenes are big now, but they're an accent piece. They're
Mhm.
very specific in flavor. Hops have hundreds of compounds, and so when you use a hop, you may be pulling out, you may be trying to focus on that mango note or that citrus note,
Yeah.
or that dank note, but you're actually getting a lot of other stuff. When you extract a terpene, you're getting one note and that's it. There's nothing else there. And so it can be an accent piece, but it's never going to really
Yeah.
end up, like a hop will, or flavor like a hop will. So, I think these things, the entire history of brewing going back thousands of years has been one in which technology has pushed the industry forward.
Mhm.
There's a traditionalist backlash, and we end up accepting some of the changes, and then some of the others we don't, and
Yeah.
and things go forward. So I'm just watching all of that without
Mhm.
having a huge amount of judgment.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where we're going to land. I do think that one reason I'm not incredibly critical of hot products is they are really an outgrowth of this national tradition that the United States have developed in making hop forward ales. We have
Mhm.
this whole tradition that did not exist. If the United States didn't exist, we would not be drinking citra hopped IPAs.
Yeah.
That's an entirely, you know, American thing. And the impulse that led us from Cascade hops to Amarillo hops to Citra hops to Crush hops is the same that led us to Cryo to,
Mhm.
all the rest. So it seems like a fairly organic outgrowth of the way we brew beer, the way we like beer, and
Mhm.
what people want. So I don't really feel too bad about that. I mean, the additives thing, like flavoring stuff, people have always had flavors. When I was writing the beer
Yeah.
Bible, I was spending a lot of time looking at old manuscripts, and people would put gross stuff in beer.
Wow.
It was like historically that has always been the case. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm fairly agnostic about all that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just curious because I mean, there's so like I said, and there's I feel like even with like phones, right? We our phones make our lives so much easier nowadays
Yeah.
too, right? So I totally understand it. But you talking about different hops and like Crush. I love Crush. Obviously, you live in Portland, so it's a really vibrant craft beer scene. What's the like? Are there some hops out there that you've had or anything? Like, do you guys I mean that close to Washington? Do you get a ton of fresh hop down there or no?
Oh, we're the
Yeah,
fresh hop capital, my friend.
love it. There it
Yeah.
is. That's what I'm
So
talking about.
well, the Willamette Valley is the third largest of the hop growing regions. Kind of depends on how you count it. We actually have a
Yeah.
few more acres than Idaho, but our climate here is cooler and wetter, and so our yield is lower. So we produce fewer pounds of hops. But we do have a different climate growing region, so our hops are a little bit different. If we grow the same hops as they grow in Idaho and Washington, like we grow Citra, of course, and Mosaic,
Mhm.
those express themselves a little bit differently than they do in those places because of the different climate that we have here. But then there are also other varieties that grow well here and not well there, and there are varieties that grow well in Washington that don't grow well in Oregon. And I think most people who know about American hops are not really aware of these different growing regions. So that's let me just say first off, that's sort of I'm a very proud Oregonian in terms of our hops.
Love it.
Um, and the Willamette Valley, if you ever look at a map, the Willamette Valley is sort of in the heart of Oregon. And so most of the breweries that are around most of the breweries are clustered around the Willamette Valley. They're within probably 80% of our breweries are within 2 hours of our hop fields. Yakima is not nearly as centrally located in Washington. And so more breweries make more fresh hop beers in Oregon in the fall than they do in Washington.
Okay.
And more people are aware of them here, and there's a bigger frenzy for fresh hop beer in Oregon. So I just have to play my Homer card here and
Oh, yeah.
brag about Oregon. Uh,
Yeah.
but one of those hops I think that is really a cool Oregon hop is Strata.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
only
yeah.
grown in Oregon, or it's I think there's a tiny bit of it now that's getting grown in Washington. But it is a classic. I think it really expresses what Oregon beer tastes like, and not that every Oregon beer has a Strata component in it, but Strata has a very dank cannabis quality.
Mhm.
But it also has a very this strawberry juicy quality, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
you get this kind of dank, juicy, dank quality out of it, which I think characterizes the flavor profile of Oregon and also the Pacific Northwest. I think the beers in Washington are very much like that too, and there's a lot of ways you can get to the juicy, dank flavor profile. You don't have to use Strata, but it is a hop that is really characteristic of the region, and it was bred here and it's grown here, and so we're pretty proud of it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh,
There's others too, but I think the modern consumer will know the flavor profile of Strata probably more than some of the older varieties that are kind of classic Oregon hops.
oh, yeah. And I'm sure you guys probably get a lot of, like, I mean, maybe not a ton because I just don't see them a lot down here, but, like, just single hop beers?
Yeah, we don't, single hop beers have really dropped off, which is frustrating for me because there's so many
Same.
new hops. There's just a million new hops, and I don't know what they taste like when you have five hops in a
Mhm.
beer, and you say, "Oh, we use Crush." It's like, great. Now, if it was a single hop, then I would know it immediately.
Yeah.
Which the fresh hop season is actually one of the opportunities that we have to do that because in with fresh hop beers, breweries will often, very much accentuate the whatever fresh hop they're using. Even if they use other ones, they really want those fresh hops to pop. So that
Mhm.
is one chance for you to get to know it. So,
Okay.
yeah, but a lot of those hops, like Crush is a Washington hop. So, I'm not tasting fresh Crush in my fresh hop beers.
Yeah, and I love single hop beers. I always call them the educational beer because, like you said, it's, you get to find out what that note is, and then if you drink a beer with 4 or 5 in there, you can kind of find it within those. So, I think it's always really cool.
So
So, obviously, you've traveled all over all over the world and everything like that, going to these different breweries. What do you feel like is harder, like, creating? Because I feel like there are times when you can find a great, great beer and the great, like creating a great, like, environment or vibe, I guess, for the brewery, and all of that. Like, what do you feel like is harder to get? Because you have to get people to come back every week, but then also the product needs to be good too, right? Some people can go somewhere just because it's Instagrammable, and the
mm.
beer might just be okay. So, what do you feel like might be is harder, like creating that or being able to to make the great beer?
I mean, you have both elements are important, and
Mm-hmm.
I think ideally, breweries that get the the importance of making an incredible beer
Mm-hmm.
at least have a sensitivity to the ambiance of the place that they're serving it, so they're aware of it. If they don't have the money, younger breweries, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
time. don't have the money, and so they're in a warehouse somewhere, and it's not the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I do think that there is some I think the Venn diagram, there's a fair amount of overlap there.
Yeah.
It's partly the great thing about beer is it's incredibly diverse, and so that's not just in terms of style, but also it's by far the most social alcoholic beverage because it's low
For sure.
alcohol, and so going to a pub and having a few beers is something you can do anywhere. In Oregon, we have a brewery chain called the McMinimans, and they have assembled some of the finest properties in the state, and their
Oh,
pubs are
nice.
just tremendous. They're one of the 2 oldest extant breweries in the state, but their beer is famously not, like, top shelf,
Okay.
especially in our state, and I think everybody just gets that if you go into a McMinimans, you're gonna have an awesome time in a beautiful, beautiful location, and
Okay.
the beer is just not gonna be sublime, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So that's
It, it's
if you want a
serviceable.
sublime beer, you go somewhere else.
Yeah. Gotcha. No, and that, yeah, because I'm always curious about that stuff. But I mean, like I have a buddy of mine, he's become one of my best friends. His name's Luis. He has Level Up Brewcade in Montclair out here in California. And like to see, like, because when it started, he had like a few arcade cabinets, but made phenomenal beer. And now you see he has like multiple cabinets. And like, he's just created this entire vibe there, and it just continues to grow. So you love to see it when everything kind of comes together.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you're good.
Had to holler at my dog, but I did it on mute, so hopefully no one heard that.
Oh, no, you're good, man. The next thing is called, this is another segment. It's called the 6-pack. So this one's more rapid fire.
Fire away.
All right. Sounds good. So the first one is lager or IPA.
Lager 4 days a week, IPA
Oh.
3.
Okay. There you go. Hazy or West Coast.
West Coast, 100%. And I'm gonna say Northwest because the
Okay.
West Coast actually has 2 regions, another thing people don't
Mm-hmm.
appreciate all the time. So we have slightly different beers up here than you have down there in California.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Next one's music or sports at a brewery.
That's also one of those challenging things because if my
Mm-hmm.
beloved Packers are playing,
Oh, I'm
that's
a Packer fan as well.
nothing's
Yeah.
better in the world. But just generally speaking, it screens are screens screens more often detract than music detracts.
Mm-hmm.
Music more often adds to the experience than
Yeah.
detracts. So, I've been to a few places with thrash metal on. It's not my favorite, but otherwise,
Yeah.
music.
Okay. Love it. Your favorite brewery right now in Portland?
It's an impossible question,
Yeah, I know.
My go-to answer always used to be Upright, which was this wonderful little brewery that was sort of the plaything of a brewer named Alex Ganoom. And I would say it because nobody knew about it, and so it was a way for me to do a little advocacy there. But unfortunately, it didn't survive and closed last
Oh,
year,
man.
so I can't really say that anymore. But I should probably select a brewery that is underappreciated that people should go see if they come
Yeah.
to Portland. So let's do Rosenstadt, a lager
Okay.
brewery that just got a tap room the end of last year, and they do great work, and I think not enough people know about them. So that the word means Rose City, which is the name of our city in German.
Okay. Love that. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Next one is your favorite junk food.
Oh boy, favorite junk food, ice cream,
Okay. Any specific flavor?
berries, fresh berries. So
Okay.
we got Oregon. Oregon ice cream is sort of famous. We have great strawberries up here, but other berries. So if it's made with, Oregon fruit, that's pretty awesome.
Okay. I love it. Nice. Last question in the 6-pack is, if your personality was a beer style, what would it be?
That's such a hard question.
I know.
One has to know oneself, and I don't know if I know myself. Well, I'm going to say a Doppelbock.
Okay. All right.
It's subtle, and people don't immediately, it doesn't really immediately knock your socks off, but it kind of grows on you, and you're like, man, it becomes bigger as you drink it. So I'm going with Doppelbock.
All right. I love it.
I grow on people. I
There
don't
it is.
impress right off the bat.
Hey,
I hope. I don't know. Maybe I don't.
No, you impressed me big time. Next one, that's not we're done with the 6-pack. But the next question is, you could have one pint with any historical figure, celebrity, sports figure, anybody ever who's sitting at the bar with you having a pint.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that by categories, because
Mhm.
they're kinda different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably, if I could, a living figure, I'd probably sit down with Barack Obama, who I know likes beer,
Okay.
and chat with that guy. He's a smart guy, and I would love to know what he thinks about politics right now.
Yeah.
Um, a historical figure, Benjamin Franklin, I mean, that's a guy who
Yeah.
likes good beer.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And, I suspect that you could spend 8 hours with that guy and, never get a word in.
Oh, probably. Oh, I bet, yeah. Well, your next one, speaking of, Benjamin Franklin, like, well, that time, if, what are your Mount Rushmore of breweries and beer styles?
Yeah, these are so tough.
Yeah.
A lot I've spent more time in Europe, I think, than a lot of people, and so some of my best my my favorite beers are not from the United States. Fuller's, to go back to the UK,
Mhm.
was tremendous. There's a brewery there called Adnams, which I really love. In Belgium, Rodenbach is I had a sublime, transcendent experience there. The Bone Lambic Brewery is another one in Belgium. Orval, DuPont, these are breweries that block my socks off.
Mhm.
My favorite German experience is Schlenkerla, the rock beer brewery in Bamberg, who has a 600-year-old pub, which,
Wow.
if you ask me where I would wanna have a beer right now if I could be teleported anywhere, the answer
Mhm.
is always Schlenkerla. There's never a time when that's not my answer.
I love that.
I absolutely love Pilsner Urquell, and their brewery is a tremendous place, and Ufleku in Prague is another amazing place. In the United States, we have so many good breweries here, and my wife's a Mainer, so we
Oh,
spend a
yeah.
fair amount of time in Maine. So Maine Beer Company, Allagash are a couple of ones that I super love. There are about 100 Oregon and Washington breweries I could
Mhm.
name that I really love. It just, it goes on and on and on. It's impossible for me to pick a favorite, I think. When you write about beer, you go into
Yeah.
a brewery and you hang out with a brewer and you hear them talk about beer and you start to, it's like they're a drug and you're taking them as the drug and you're getting high on their experience of making.
Mhm.
There are these craftspeople who have spent their life making beer, and it's very hard to walk out of an experience like that if they make good beer and not feel like it's your favorite brewery, at least in the day following that a brewery tour like that. And I've had so many of those that it's very, very
Mhm.
difficult for me to pick a favorite.
Yeah, man, and this is the first time I've ever had an author on the show. But like you said, when you're talking to a brewer or even just talking to you, like, you can tell how much you care about what you do and all the work that goes into it, just like, with the brewer, like, to me, like, that's why I always say, like, the journey to get there is like, well, the destiny's the same, like, the destination is the same. Sorry, keep fumbling my words because I'm nervous. Um, the destination to get there is the same, but the journey to get there is different. So, like, anytime you talk to someone, it's going to be a different experience each time because, yeah, everyone like, if you're in the brewing industry, you want to either be a brewer or open up your own brewery. But everybody's hardships and everything that they've been through, it's all different and it's all such a great part of their story.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there are breweries in which that goes back generations, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I'm not just like to toot your horn a little bit more, like what I get from like your book, it's like obviously beer is like it's more than just a beer or like a beverage. It's like it's the history, it's the culture, it's where you are, like I guess geography, and the the people who make it and the people who consume it. And I feel like that's what I got from it, and I loved it. So I'm just really thankful.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it is true.
Yeah.
There's a communication that happens between breweries and their customers.
Yeah.
And, if you ever wonder why they drink lagers in Germany and why they drink IPAs in America, it's because of that conversation that happens. That
Mhm.
brewers have access to certain ingredients, certain processes, and they start making beer. And then Americans start the drinkers start drinking it, and they have comments and they have preferences, and it kind of drives things together, and eventually you end up in a unique place anywhere you go where they have different flavors and processes, ingredients and all that. And yeah, beer is a product of culture that emerges from this conversation.
Oh, definitely. I just have two more things for you. First one's more of a funny one. It's if you could bring something back from when you're a kid that's not around anymore, what would it be?
Henry Weinhardt's brewery.
Okay. All right. Love it. The last one is if you had to describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Writer.
Okay. I love that. I mean, I said, if you ever write a second one or if you write another one, I'm all about it.
I have books in my brain that I would like to write. We'll
Okay.
see if I can find the time and a publisher who thinks we can sell one of them.
Well, you got mine. You got my money. So there you go.
I appreciate that.
Of course. Well, thank you again. We can stick around and chat for a minute after, but I just want to say thank you again, Jeff. This has been a blast.
Cool. Yeah, it was great to speak with you. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, we always, because I always sign off by saying, find your beer. Do you think you could say, find your beer?
Find your beer.
There it is. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I had a great time talking with Jeff. And again, just pick up the book. It's like, I mean, I don't remember how much I paid for it on Amazon, but I mean, just do it up, man. Like, I'm looking it up as we're talking, but I'm the only one talking. And Morgan, she's snoring back there. Do you think I would get something from her for Father's Day? No, not even nothing. The Beer Bible. Jeff Alworth, right on. $15. You get the paperback for $15.66. You get free Prime shipping. This isn't an ad for Prime, but it's an ad for Jeff because I love that book. And, I don't know if I've ever even talked about it, but a part of me always wanted to be a writer. I love to write. And it's just inspiring, man. Like, it's so cool that, he's doing out there, he did something he loves, and he got to write, like a longer edition of it. And that's one of the questions, obviously, you guys heard, where I was like, man, if you were going to do something now, like add something now to it, especially after, the last 5 years, like what would it be? I just think it's really cool. And I applaud people that are willing to chase their dreams like that. So, all right. I think that's all I got. Next week's episode is going to be the LA Beer Fest episode. And I am not going to lie, I still have not listened to the audio because I'm like, dang, I hope it's okay. But I'm going to do my best to clean it up. And if it's not good enough, I won't put it out. So we shall see how it all goes. All right. And then the next week's episode is with my dog, Luis. And then obviously, like I said, next week I'm recording at Beechwood. So I'm stoked. Should be a good time. And, man, like there's a lot. I was trying to think of like more episodes I can do. Like obviously the amount of breweries, I'm just going to say there's new breweries popping up all the time. But yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to find out whoever wants to be on, baby. And if you're a brewery in the area and you're listening and you want to be on the show or like you think it'd be fun, I'd love to. So just send me a message. All right, I'm going to shut up now. Go make a coffee, get ready, and then get the fuck out of here. Because I got to drive out to the breakfast spot. All right. Hope you guys have a great week. Have a great Sunday. Happy Father's Day. I'm making some smash burgers later, some smashies on some Martin potato rolls. So I think I'm going to make barbecue bacon smash burgers. Maybe a little jalapeno on it, and then maybe some crispy jalapenos. Right on. All right. I'm going to shut up now. Again, enjoy your week. Enjoy your Sunday. And don't forget to support local, drink local, and find your beer. Cheers.